Welcome to session 1 of our Keep Your Brain Sharp online course. Our first session has to do with sleep. So I got a question for you. Why should you care about sleep? Why should you care? So on a scale of 1 to 10, I want you to go ahead and rate how you think your sleep is, with 1 being horrible and 10 being, I wouldn't change a thing. Now, some of you probably took the Better Brain Sleep Assessment, and you may still remember your sleep score. If you do, go ahead and remember that. But if you don't, just go ahead and just take a guess. Now, just give me a general in the ballpark number for where you think your sleep is. And you can always go on the Facebook page, look in the guide section under sleep, and you can take the sleep assessment again later if you'd like. But for now, just go ahead and give me a number. Okay, now if your number is 10, give yourself a pat on the back. I am so proud of you. I don't even think I have a 10. But my question with that is, are you interested in maintaining that 10? Because you know, as we age, things happen. Nothing stays static. It either gets better or it gets worse. And so you may have to become more intentional about holding on to that 10. And if you're like most of us and it's less than 10, be encouraged, because just like I just said, things change and it can definitely get better. But my point is, if you do nothing, you're really saying that you don't care if it gets worse. My question then is, how much worse are you okay with it getting? Yeah, because sleep is so very, very important. Now, you may be expecting a miracle, and I'm not mad at you, because God does do miracles and miracles still happen. But I just want to share with you that God gave us dominion down here, and just maybe He might be wanting you to take care of some things. You know, it's just like us and our kids. As we nurture and we teach our kids and get older, we can do some things for them, but we decide we're not doing it for them anymore. They need to handle their business themselves. So God may be taking that attitude with you too. He says, I've given you dominion and you need to handle your business yourself. I'm not saying, but that just might be a possibility. So the ball may well be in your court. How do you want it to go? Think about what's happening right now. Ask yourself these questions. Is it easy for you to get to sleep? Do you wake up during the night? Is it hard to get back to sleep? Do you take a lot of trips to the bathroom? Do you wake up feeling tired or worn out or beat up? Are you dozing during the day? Are there some things about your sleep that you probably want to see get a little better? That's you. You are definitely in the right place. And don't you dare believe the myth about older people needing less sleep, because that is not true. Older people need just as much sleep as they age as they did when they were younger. It's just that it's common for older people not to get as much sleep, but it's not normal. It's not intended. And so what we need to do is we need to make sure that we are getting adequate sleep even throughout our golden years. Because good sleep is essential. It's mandatory. It's fundamental to our good brain health. You can be doing all of the other keys of brain health, and you can become a master at all of them. But if you're not on point with your sleep, you might be just spinning your wheels. You're not going to have the type of brain health that you want. Disease and other conditions can run and overtake you if you don't have a good handle on your sleep. So that's why we've made sleep the first key that we're tackling with our Keep Your Brain Sharp course, because it's so very, very important. And like I said, foundational. And it takes sometimes a while for things to change in that area. So they say give it 8 to 10 weeks. So we're giving it a lot of time to make those changes. So we're starting now. We're going to be progressing and continuing it all the way through the program. So I want to make sure that you know why you need to do this, and hopefully these reasons will give you incentive and motivate you to keep going as we progress through the homework assignments and things, because a lot of people sacrifice their sleep for their spouse and for their kids and even for their job, and I understand that to a certain point, but you may want to think about moving some things around and changing some things up as soon as you can, as much as you can, to make sure your sleep becomes a priority in your life. It's kind of like when you're on the airplane and they're giving you the emergency spiel, and they say, okay, the oxygen mask falls down. What are you supposed to do? Put it on yourself first, then put it on your child. So why is that? You're no good to your child if you can't function. Same thing with sleep. You're not going to be any good to your family with a broken brain. So even though it sounds like you may be being selfish, putting sleep as a priority in front of some other things, in the long run, it's not being selfish. It is showing love and concern for your family, because guess what? Your brain breaks down, your family, your spouse, your kids are going to have a burden placed upon them. It's going to be an emotional burden. It's going to be a physical burden. And it's probably going to be a financial burden placed on them. And if you can change that by getting sufficient and adequate sleep on a regular, consistent basis, why not? Why not? So look at it that way. And so hopefully these are reasons to give you some incentive and some motivation. And like I said, as we go through our homework assignments, and keep you going throughout this period of time, because guess what? If you keep going with it, it gets easier. And guess what? You may start to enjoy it. That's what happened to me. There's some things that I do know regarding my sleep routine, and I enjoy it. And to think, icing on the cake, a big reward at the end by sticking with it. Okay, so next question. Why is sleep so important? Okay, we know we need to get our rest, we need to get our hours in, we need to sleep, but sleep is not just about resting our body, although our body does need to rest, and that definitely we need to do. We don't want to just fall over because we're exhausted. So we do need to rest, we do need to sleep. But sleep is also about prevention. Prevention. Adequate sleep decreases your chances of getting a lot of serious diseases and other conditions that you do not want to get. Sleep is about giving your brain a chance to reset the button. Giving it a chance to reset, okay? And it's not just about sleeping for a certain amount of hours. It's about reaching that reset button. There's some things that have to go on for you to reach that reset button, and it happens at night. It's kind of like one of those obstacle courses. If you've seen on TV, they have those competitions where these people have to do the loop, going through the hoops and picking up the weights and hitting the balls or going across the bridge kind of thing, and they have to reach and they have to hit the buzzer, and it's all timed, and they get points for as much things as they accomplished or whatever on the way through the obstacle course. Well, our sleep is kind of like that, and that we have stages and cycles in our sleep that we need to get through, and our brain has specific things, a to-do list at each of those stages and cycles that it needs to check off as being completed as we get to go on toward the buzzer. And when the buzzer rings at sunrise, we should be completed with those things. So it's kind of like a timed obstacle course in that way. You need to go through the hit all the points, and you need to finish. So during the day, your brain is working, getting this done, getting that done. It's active all the time. It's never stopping and doing all these kind of things. And while it's working, it's not worried about the things that are flying around it. It's kind of like my husband with his job with construction. He was a construction foreman, and they did tilt-ups. They did warehouses. And he would tell me about how they had, a schedule. They had a deadline. They had to complete and get the job finished by a certain time. And so as they went through the job, their goal was to raise that building. And so as they went about it, they were working, and they really weren't concerned about the trash and the debris and all the things that accumulated, the piles of stuff that accumulated as they're working. They just kept working to finish and reach their goal. And then after they put the building up, they would have this cleaning crew come in and clean everything up. And it would take days for that crew of men to get all those piles of debris and trash and waste and stuff into bins and load them up and haul them off. But that's how they worked. And so your brain is kind of like that, and that during the day, it's just working, and things are flying and falling wherever they want to fall, and things are happening all the way, and they're not even concerned about the free radicals flying all everywhere and the waste from all this other stuff happening. But they know that at night, when you go to sleep, the cleanup crew is going to come in, and it's going to take care of all that debris. It's going to clean up all that waste. It's going to reorganize things, put things back on the shelves, put things in their proper order, prep up for the next day, clean everything, get everything ready, straightened out for you to start your next day. So that's how it works. But what if the cleanup crew gets there late, doesn't get there on time, so it can't even start on time when they're supposed to start? Or what if they don't have the right equipment? When they get there, the right equipment is not there. There's not enough of the equipment to go around to all the people so everyone can be efficient and everyone can be working on something. There's not enough equipment for everyone. Or what if they get there and the work that was supposed to be finished, they still have unexpected work that they have to finish before they can actually start cleaning up. So they have an unexpected job they have to do instead of cleaning up. They have to do that job before they can even start cleaning up. And they weren't expecting that. They have distractions and disruptions going on. And what if they run out of time? And those are the kind of things that happen when we don't get the proper sleep, when we get fragmented sleep, which they have the disruptions going on, and our cycles have to restart or do over or don't get completed or don't finish, that kind of thing. And that's what happens if we're not intentional about setting ourselves up for the best sleep possible. So the next day, when your brain comes to work and is getting ready to work, it sees there's trash still all around. The things that were supposed to be put away are not put away. It can't find the things that it had yesterday that was ready to use today. They can't find it. They don't know where they put it. It's not organized. And things get a little chaotic. And things get a little disrupted and out of joint, out of sorts. And if that thing happens night after night after night, you have that buildup of chaos and malfunction. You can see where that's going to end up just being an accident waiting to happen. Kind of like when you're a mom and you tell your kids to clean up their room and they have a certain time or a certain day or whatever they're supposed to get the room clean. And you think that they're doing that, and then you go by one day and you look in their room and you're like, what is going on? What is all this mess? How come you haven't straightened this up? How can you do anything in here? How can you find anything in here? And you're upset with them because they haven't completed their task on schedule. And you tell them, if this room stays like that, you're going to have stuff growing. You're going to have file stuff in here. You're going to have creepy, crawly little bugs all in here. You need to get this thing in order. And that's like our brain. We need to make sure our brain has a chance to reset and to clean and to organize. And that's the job at night. Okay. We don't want it to be a breeding ground for disease and other conditions. It says that sleep can do things that medicine cannot do. Think about that. Sleep can do things that medicine just can't do. Sleep restores a lot of your brain's functions, and that's why it's so important that we get the required hours of sleep that we need. It's a big mistake. It's a big mistake to put sleep on the back burner, or to put sleep at the bottom of your priority list, or to sacrifice your sleep in order to finish doing something else. Big mistake. So let's look at the consequences. The consequences if you do decide to put sleep on the back burner or to not worry about quality sleep. What happens? Okay. Basically, bottom line, gloom and doom eventually is going to happen with you, and not just regarding your brain, but other organs in your body and other functions in your body are going to be affected as well. But if we're going to talk about the brain first, let's go ahead and talk about the brain. So we're going to talk about depression. We're going to talk about moodiness. And you know that's true. You already know that when you don't get enough sleep, you know how you feel the next day. What kind of attitude you have about stuff, and your children and your grandchildren or whatever. In fact, with babies, first thing you tell them when they get irritable or crotchety or whatever, you say, you know what, you need a nap. You need a nap, because you can tell that they're being affected by lack of sleep, and the sleep will help them. Dementia and Alzheimer's, of course, the risk of that raises really high when you're not getting the proper sleep. So that's definitely a reason in itself for you to get your sleep. Also, we're talking about learning. And with learning, it was so interesting to me. And not just, older people learning, but athletes learning, children learning in school. They talk about motor learning, and it makes a difference. When you're an athlete, you shooting those free throws, practicing 100 free throws that day. If you don't get a good night's sleep that night, you lose part of that motor learning that you were acquiring that day, because your brain doesn't have an opportunity to store it, and it just gets swept up with everything else. So you need to get sleep. But with learning, they say not only with retention, which it does definitely help with retention, and memory loss is also affected by inadequate sleep, and focus and impulsiveness, all of that, but also with acquiring knowledge. It's harder to learn something from the get if you're not getting the proper sleep, and then it's hard to retain it, especially if you don't sleep that very night. If you don't get proper sleep that very night, you lose a lot of what you learned before. They have studied this, and people that learn something that sleep that night properly, and people that learn the same thing, had the same aptitude on it, and did not sleep that night, when they retested them the next day or whatever, there was a drastic difference. And also, you can't make it up. If you don't get the sleep that night, getting it 2 nights down the road doesn't matter. That stuff has already been swept away. So that's really interesting. And then the other part is immune system. We know we have our own immune system within our brain, and our immune dysfunction occurs when we're not getting proper sleep. And what was interesting about, we already know one part of it. We know that when we're tired and we're not getting enough sleep, we know that we're more subject to catch a cold, to get sick, to catch something somebody else has, if our body is not sufficiently resting. And you know that, or maybe you don't, but I know that. Anyway, but the other thing is regarding vaccinations, and they studied that as well. And if you're not getting the proper sleep, it affects your body's response to vaccinations. It's not able to produce the antibodies. It was like, in one study, it had like a 50% decrease in the number of antibodies it was able to produce in people that were not getting sufficient sleep. So you hear about people that say they, got vaccinated for this or the other, and they still got it anyway or whatever. You need to check and see how their sleep patterns are. How are they sleeping? Because that does have something to do with it. I thought that was just so Interesting. But then, of course, there's other things that are not directly brain related that you don't want to happen, like cancer, high risk for cancer. One study had 200% increase in the risk of cancer and the speed of the growth of the cancer cells. Has to do with how well you're sleeping. Interesting. And you know, of course, about diabetes, you know about heart disease and blood circulation and all of that. Obesity, though, was another one. It was talking about 300 more calories a day. You are subject to eat 300 more calories a day if you're not getting sufficient sleep. And not just any old calories. You are having the cravings for sugars and salts, sugary and salty foods. And you gain 300 more calories every day. Doesn't take long for you to see how you're going to be gaining weight just because you're not sleeping correctly. That should be enough to make you get yourself in the bed on time. Also, performance. We talked about your motor performance. Also, pain. Your pain sensitivity is increased in relation to the amount of proper sleep that you're getting. Fascinating. So there's a lot of reasons why you should be concerned and be ready to take that plunge and tweaking the things that you need to tweak to get the sleep that you need. Make some changes in your life because there are definite consequences and there's lifelong benefits. They say the shorter your sleep, the shorter your life. And that's kind of a harsh statement. It's a hard statement to take, but the shorter amount of time you sleep, the shorter your life. So, let me go with some myths. We have some myths. I already talked about the myth about being older and not needing sleep, and that's a myth. No, you need your 7 to 8 hours of sleep. The other one is about making up sleep. You're going to catch up on your sleep. So you're going to burn the midnight oil all week because you're going to catch up on your sleep on the weekend. Or you going to work hard because when you vacation for those 2 weeks, you ain't going to do nothing but sleep and catch everything up. No, that's not going to happen. Now, you may feel better because you finally did get some sleep, but you can't make up for what you've already missed. It's kind of like we were talking about when you learn something and they're supposed to store it. Well, if you didn't store it that night, it gets swept away. How are you going to catch that up? How are you going to go find that trash? How are you going to find that trash bin and try to catch that? You're not going to catch that up. That's gone. You can just go from where you are and improve from that point on. So that's a myth about catching up. The other thing is people tend to think that if you get in the bed and you go to sleep as soon as your head hits that pillow, that's a good thing. That's to be envied. That's actually a sign that you are sleep deprived. It's a sign that you need more sleep. You haven't gotten enough sleep. That's why you fell asleep so quickly. It's like if you see somebody sitting on the couch beside you and you're watching a movie and you turn around and they sleep. You don't count that as an asset. You're like, what? You fell asleep. You're in the car talking to somebody, turn around and they're asleep. That's a sign that you needed more rest. You're not getting enough sleep. Not that you're getting good sleep, but you're not getting enough sleep and you need to make some changes in your life. So you should take, actually they say it's about 20 to 25 minutes after you get in the bed. It should take you about 20 to 25 minutes to go to sleep. So you don't immediately just clock off like that, 20 to 25 minutes. So those are all myths. And I hope that as we continue through this, and especially these 2 weeks when we focus in on sleep specifically, that you will start seeing some changes and start making some changes. Not on everything, because you're going to find out that there's some things that you're already doing. There may be a lot of things you're already doing. But if you want optimum, if you want the best of the best, we want to see all the things that you could do to achieve that. So the last thing we're going to talk about before your homework is your sleep routine, because there's some components of sleep that you do that will optimize your brain health. And like I said, some of them you may already be doing. Now, we're not going to talk in depth about them right now. We're going to talk in detail about them next week. So I just want to run through them with you right now. One is to set a schedule. You have a sleep schedule. You have a time that you get yourself in the bed. Same time every day. The time does not change because it's the weekend. The time does not change because you're on vacation. The time does not change because it's your birthday. Pick your time and stay with that time. And it's just purpose. I mean, no one's perfect, but purpose to stay on that time, as close to that time as you can. You don't have to be down to the minute every day, but you know what I'm talking about. If you say you're going to be in bed at 10, then you should be in bed at 10. 10:05, 10:10 at the latest. Your little self needs to be in the bed. So you set a time that you need to go to bed, and you stick with it. The other thing is your lighting. It does matter. Your lighting does matter, and I did a video about that. You can find it on my YouTube channel, Keep Your Brain Sharp, or you can find it on my public Keep Your Brain Sharp Facebook page about light matters, and it talks about how it's important what kind of lighting that you have when you're trying to go to sleep. The other thing that matters is your exercise. Another thing that matters is your electronics. Whether you keep them on and off, and when you turn them off, it matters. Nutrition is another thing that matters. When you close that kitchen, and what you have is soothing, and when you stop eating or drinking certain things, it all has to do with good sleep. Another thing is the temperature in your room. Some people might think your room needs to be really, really warm, but that is not so. The temperature in your room matters. Another thing is the equipment that you're using, your mattress and your pillows and your curtains and your alarm clocks and those kinds of things make a difference for some people in terms of their quality of sleep. The other thing is relaxation options that you have. There's lots of things you can do to get yourself in the mood to go to sleep, and that'll help you go to sleep faster, and also keep you asleep, let you stay asleep longer. Some relaxation things you can do. So we're going to talk about those things specifically and in detail next week. I just wanted to give you a little preview, because your homework for today, or for this week, got 3 things I want you to do. First thing is, I want you to fill out the 7-day sleep diary. I have a sleep diary for you that asks you about 6 or 7 questions for you to answer every day, just so you can get a feel for how your sleep is right now. And the other thing, so you're going to find that on your sleep guide section in the Facebook page. The other thing is for you to start thinking about your ideal sleep window. So when is the prime time for you to get your 7 to 8 hours? And if it's different from what you're doing right now, that's okay. We're going to get you there. But I want you to pick the time, like if it's 10 to 6 or whatever you want to do. And I want you to post it in the Facebook group. Post the time that you're going to bed right now, and it's your ideal time for your 7 to 8 hours that you can see yourself adjusting to, or planning to adjust to, and will help you get there. Put that in the Facebook group. The last thing is just to take a look at the 14-day calendar that I have in the sleep guide. There's a 14-day calendar that we're going to start actually next week, but I want you to just take a look at it, because there may be a few things that you want to get for yourselves before we get started or whatever, and just have a look at it. So on Wednesday, when we do our Zoom, if you have any questions on that, you can go ahead and ask me questions about that, or to clarify anything or whatever. So that's your homework for this week, to fill out that 7-day sleep diary, and that's in the Facebook group, private group, in the sleep guide section. There are guides in there, and the one that's titled Sleep, you'll find that in there. To post when your ideal sleep windows are going to be, when you go to bed, when you wake up, and what they are right now. And the last one is just to take a look at the 14-day calendar, sleep calendar, which is also in the guide labeled Sleep. Okay, so I am so excited. That's your homework for today. I will see you on Wednesday. For those of you that can make the live Zoom at 12 noon Pacific time, if you cannot make it, then it's going to be recorded. So I'll put the recording in the Facebook group so you can look at it that way. If you have any questions for me, you can also post that in the Facebook group, or message me and let me know what those are. So I am excited. We're going to do this thing, si se puede, and we're going to make this thing happen. So you have a wonderful day. I will talk with you soon.